Yo! Good day, everyone. Today is going to be one of many code explanation videos of some of the mechanics inside Scrapmaster. As time goes on, this is going to be more efficient and stuff, but this is the first one, so I'm just going to get into it. I already recorded this once, but I realized I didn't have my mouse, and I think it's actually kind of important, so I'm going to be doing it again. Alright, I'm going to explain how cards work currently, because compared to the trailer about a month ago, they work differently than what was inside there. For example, there was a thing called a card holder, which you can see right here. This actually doesn't even need to be a prefab anymore. It doesn't do anything a prefab needs to, because it's not generating anything. So I can just make it a normal game object, but I'm not fucking with it right now. Anyways, so there's this card holder, and which is different than how it originally worked, because instead it was just like a grid layout group, and it would auto sort it, which is what caused it to like have bad it was just bad in the terms of spacing. For example, if you could see the hovering, that's where all the cards would do it, and it would auto sort it, like auto space it, but it just doesn't. It didn't look right because it was gonna overlapping, and then I didn't like the spacing, and I wanted the feel of Yu-Gi-Oh rather than the feel of like a Slay the Spire type thing, and so I said change it to play zones, which are what these hand slots are, and then the actual play zone themselves for self, enemy, or both. We go into resources because there's a lot of scriptable objects, and I separated it so the scripts can search through the resources cards instead. So that way I can move all the scriptable objects over there. Let's go to the starter cards. I'm going to delete the start, because that was my example card. We're going to just do it again. Alright, let's explain how the card works through the inspector. Card, script, card.cs, obviously. Card name, cost, image, text. So each of them right now has an image. This is the Scrap Fist, which uses the Scrap Fist image. The cost of 1, that's the energy cost you see right here. Then Scrap Fist, the name, blah blah blah, and then the text. Text, I want to eventually have it where it just adds more text to it. So every time you add a modifier, it just adds another text box. So it'd be deal 6 damage, then you add a poison modifier. At the end of all of that text, you would have poison 6. And then it would continue doing it and like shrink up the text to make it like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. Kind of wanted to do it like that, but I'm not sure how that's actually done. Whether it adds to the dot text to here or whatnot. I don't know how to exactly do it. Have any suggestion? Let me know, because this is technically a code review. So yeah, that would be really nice. Primary target. This is what play zone you're putting it in. This will normally be if there are cards that buff yourself but are primarily targeting the enemy, which could come into effect if the enemy is like, if you target it, it does something. Typically that's what the primary target is for. So primary target right now is the enemy, because you are attacking the enemy with your fist, and then the added a card effect. So you can always add an additional card effect, that kind of stuff. So whenever I wanted to do this effect, if the card was exiled, return this card to the deck after combat, I would add a new effect and then put that new effect here, which is another scriptable object. Go to the target. Target is the same. I make sure it's the same as the primary target. You want to do that. So primary target is the enemy. Primary target only really affects the play zone. It doesn't really affect anything else. The actual targeting system is inside the target effects. The target effects. So target, damage effect, and then the effect value. So right now this is 6 for 6 damage. Relatively simple. And then rarity, which affects the prices, and then generation through card rewards. That's pretty much about it. Yeah. That's pretty much a card, so let's just run through it again. But like actually make a card. So, cards, new cards, because it's a scriptable object. Reposition. Boom. Reposition. I've been playing a lot of 3 houses, so that's what this name is coming from. The cost shall be 1. The image shall be none, because I don't have any, so I'm going to put fourth gear instead. And so, reposition. In that game, you move around an enemy, or you move an enemy around, something like that. I don't remember. It's a combat art. I don't know. So it's kind of like a flanking. So it's gonna apply exposed. So, but it's also repositioning, so you're gonna gain some block. So I'm gonna say gain 4 block, or shield. Then apply 6 exposed. Just like that. Boom. So that's attacks for it. Let's put the effects in. There are 2 effects. The first one is gaining shield. We're going to do this. Gain shield, which is a self effect. Primary is the primary target itself, because you're going to put the card on yourself. Boom. Or shield. That's as simple as that. And then exposed, which we will go into the actual code form right over here. Boom. Apply exposure. Apply exposure. A lot of these things look the same, where it's just going to have a resolve for the player, the enemy AI, which is the enemy AI script for the enemy, int with a custom value, which is how much, and then the target for the target, and then the card for the actual card data. And then for this is the player and the enemy add status. This status is exposure. Custom value is custom value. A lot of this is pretty self-explanatory, but yeah. And executes on the target. So it's just running it. It's just, hey, run this. That's the method, and it's just gonna call the method on activate. Okay. Self. So this actually targets the enemy because it's applying exposure. Exposure amount is 6. Boom. Rarity is common. Kind of stuff. And that's really how the card works. And then I would move this into the arts category, and then you can just see it generated. Let's put it in there for now. I have a bunch of other things, like a curse for the smartphone. So I'll probably have to do a bunch of changing around for that, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. Yeah, starter, blah 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 blah. Cool. So that's basically the cards. Go back to the top. So I'm using DG tweening. I think that's how it's called. Because it's better for animations than what I was doing, which was like coroutines and stuff, and it's just not good. I was still pretty new to it, so I don't know much about it. But yeah, rect transform, canvas ray, just auto finds that kind of stuff. Then on begin drag, it changes the scaling, so it makes the card bigger, so it's easier to put on the target. On drag, make the value position, or it follows mouse position. And then if it fails, it returns the hand. If not, it actually plays the card in the valid drop zone. The drop zone is the play zones shown here. Play zones right here. I just dragged it in the card holder. Play zone, both, which is a giant play zone, self, and then the end. Cool. Plays the card, and then resolves it, moving cards, like updating discard and that kind of stuff, and then moves the card actually to the discard or exile, that kind of stuff, and then it destroys the game object. Returns the hand. If it fails to actually get into a play zone, it will do the move, but we'll also go back to the home slot, so where it was before, because it saved it. And then it's just gonna make a little animation for that. Getting the like target zone, this is the target. I could probably make this a case type thing. I didn't, because it works. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. So on start as well, it's gonna do that opening animation. What is it doing? The card comes from the slot right here, which I still need to update so it actually shows like a backside of a card, and then moves down, which is like parallel to this, and moves, then goes into the slot. So it goes there, goes there, make sure it's aligned, and then goes up. Continuing. Boom. Like, and it failed because I just let go. Ooh, we drag, we with the mouse position. I failed because it's not a valid drop zone, not a valid drop zone, not a valid drop zone, keeps shaking, that kind of stuff. And because it's not a valid drop zone, can't spend the energy, that kind of stuff. Boom. Failed again because you can see right here that's the play zone. It's not there. Doesn't work. Go right here. Boom. Gives me 1. Sharp. It goes here. I need to adjust this. So essentially, what this is going to do is this is going to show up with this boxes, the tutorial, like the info pop-ups. And so based on what you hover, it will show the pop-up here and the amount of stacks. And that way it'll just make things easier. So you can just hover over this kind of stuff, and then you can see the information here. Enemy intents will be here. So if it adds a card, the card will be here. If not, you won't see this. But I just wanted to have it for now. A lot of this is actually going to be blank. I just wanted a general idea of what things would look like. So yeah, mods will also go here. And then this is the map. But right now there's just the normal map. Okay, boom. Drag. That's that. Moves it to the discard. And again, moves it to the discard. And the turn. Do it again. See, now it's doing 7 damage because of the 1 sharp. And that's right now, that's my entire deck. So this will be 0. And those are the other 3. Cool. That's pretty much all I wanted to show. The card holder, play zones, card drag handler. But yeah, that's pretty much about it. Feel free to leave comments or do whatever. See ya.